So I got a couple of comments from Gav Irvin and Steve, my American YouTube friend. Now, I recommended that you try to buy panels from the manufacturer or aftermarket, especially galvanised ones, to try to make these repairs easier. This entire repair section, I don't know if that light's working in my favour, it's something I bashed over an old, what do you call it, oh, got an A in, no else has did that. Something that I bashed over an old vise over there. If the panels are expensive and you've got some time in your hand, there's no point in stopping your project because you can't afford something. Try fabricating it. There's a thing about after you do something 3 times, you kind of get better at it. Now a lot of this stuff's kind of bespoke, so you're doing a one-off section. Look at that, all the way to the back, every inch of it. I'm just about ready to be able to run back and forward with that with a paintbrush and go absolutely bonkers with seam sealer. But yeah, so there's a thing about you do something 3 times, you become sort of a half good at it, and to become an expert takes about 10,000 hours. So this stuff isn't hard, it's just time consuming. So Steve, don't be put off fabricating your own panels. My advice was, it just takes a bit longer. If you've got a bit of time in your hand. The other thing I would say as well is, even before I cut all this stuff out, the metal was badly corroded behind it, but if something hit the side of the vehicle, there's so much meat in the bones with these things that I don't think it would cause too much damage anyway. Let's take this screw off. So this is a panel I've put on the back, so that when I come to put the rocker panels, the cells on, I can get in behind it and get a paintbrush in here and paint into the gaps. There's so much work involved in doing this that the last thing I want to do is, so there's been a bit of movement from yesterday. The last thing I want to do is do all this work, not protect it properly, and in 6 months' time to be looking at rust bubbling through. This area here, I'm going to look at that as a different part of the process from that section there. I was very, very keen to get the underseal on as fast as possible. So tonight when I come down, that took me 3 or 4 hours worth of grinding. Then I washed everything down with a paintbrush that was in some white spirit. Any solvent will do. I think petrol's probably your best bet. It's probably going to be the cheapest in the long run, isn't it? Then I used a little wire brush. Again, what's the point in doing all this stuff if the seam sealer's not going to stick to dirt or whatever? So that's a little copper-headed brush. I just went back along. Don't get me wrong, I used grinding disc and grinding wheels to get the majority of it off. Then, before I put the seam sealer on, I used a little wire-headed copper brush and then a paintbrush. So I would degrease the areas of existing seam sealer stuff, right? So that panel, if you look at it, that's a straight line. That's a straight line. It's not actually a complicated shape. It's when it starts going up onto the wheel arch that it becomes complicated. So that thing about your third attempt usually gets better. That's my second attempt at making the repair section for where the rocker panel goes up onto the front fuel support, or I don't know what you'd call it. A bit over there. It's kind of okay. I think I managed. I was looking at it and I can't even work out how I did it. So I think a tip I would give anybody that's trying to make even like this little L section with it, I just stick things in the vise. Now I've put a nail in that. Imagine this piece of metal was the length of that, the pair over there. A tip I would give you is always leave way more meat in the bones than you need. Right, so I've already put a bend in there. If we have a look at this, we need another one, what, half an inch or inch in centimetre. If you cut the steel small, like that, oh god, my camera works terrible, sorry about this. If you cut the steel small, that's actually more difficult to do that bend. If that steel was an inch or two, you put it in the vise, it's dead easy to bend it over. Then you come back and trim off the bit you need. So, as an example, there's that L-shaped now. It's just a piece of scrap metal I've got lying about. Imagine that was the length of that section there, right? So we've put the first bend in it. We go back in the vise, stick it in. Because I've left the metal longer, I can kind of do that with one hand. And that's already given us a more complicated shape. That makes sense? I don't know. As I say, Steve, don't let the lack of availability or the cost of the repair sections put you off doing it. Most of this stuff's really quite straightforward. If you've not got, my thing is money. I don't really have a lot of money. The repair panels I bought for the van, I've got another van the same as this. That was kind of my daily driver. I've hardly been in anything for weeks just because I'm not doing the work and stuff like that. I'd already bought most of the panels before I started in this vehicle, so when it came to doing this one, most of the bits were lying about, so it was kind of a no-brainer to start chipping away at it. Right, so that's out the way. If you don't have the aftermarket panels, don't worry about it. If you've got a bit of time in your hands, metal works hitting things with hammers over metal, solid pieces of metal, you know. That old vise has fabricated just about everything that I needed, and it's a piece of crap. Right, so anyway, on to story 2. Now the last time I was up here, because I'm waiting for seam and stuff to dry, it's given me a chance to jump back on up on the roof. Now the last time I was up here, I don't think I explained myself very well. We've got these things in the roof. What would we call them? I don't know. A strengthener or something like that. These things have been pressed into the roof anyway. I was very worried that when the skylight, the roof goes in here, there was going to be a gap between here and here, where water could build up and work its way back towards the sunroof. So what I've done is build it up with a layer of fiberglass all the way around. My camera work, sorry about the camera work, guys. And I'm hoping, my thinking in that, the theory on that is, camera, focus. My theory on that is, Scotland's a very, very wet country. I don't plan to, if I ever get the thing on the road, Scotland is a beautiful place. Come visit. We've got some fantastic people. Some of the countryside outside my city is just breathtaking. However, it's wet here. Before I die, I want to see some sunshine. So my plan is to try to get into Europe as much as possible in this thing. However, I digress, I transgress. I didn't want water building up between these roof strengtheners, I don't know what you call them, and working its way back towards where the window will be. So as you can see, I built this out an extra, there's the, you can see it there, there's the thing there, and I've built it out an extra ½ inch by about 4 to 5 centimetres. And I'm hoping that when I go to put this one is doing my boxing. That's a good Scottish thing. When I go to put the skylight, the roof light, the thing in the roof in, if it's very, very wet, the water won't be able to work its way into the van. I've got real paranoia about that, obviously. If you're going to skin the inside of the van with wood and put insulation and stuff, the last thing you want is water coming in and spoiling all your work. So going the extra mile in this repair, I think might be quite a good idea. I don't know if you've seen the earlier videos, but all the steel across here was all been really badly replaced. I'm not bothered about it. From the side of the van, you'll be able to see that down in the ground. All the rest of it, all I am interested in is making sure that's watertight. I've got roofing flashing, which is very similar to cars sound deadening. I'm quite tempted to put strips of it across where I did my repair and just go absolutely bonkers with it, because again, I don't want things to get wet. So the stuff you don't see was the 3 or 4 hours I did earlier on my back with the angle grinders and the wire wheels on a drill and the cleaning everything with paraffin before I put on the seam sealer and stuff like that. It's just mucky, hard work. However, after I seen the corrosion that had built up on a day or two of the metal being exposed to the Scottish weather, not even being exposed to the Scottish weather, we're inside a warehouse, and that steel still started rusting out. So I think get it welded, get it dressed, get the protection on it, then move on to the next thing. Don't leave bare metal. Again, this is coming from a Scottish perspective. The humidity in our country is absolutely mental. We're an island stuck between, what, 2,000 miles one side to America, and it's like 800 miles the other way to get to Europe. And we're absolutely surrounded by blisteringly cold water. The North Sea is a heavy, heavy, heavy piece of water. Then we've got the Atlantic to our left-hand side, so it is damp in Scotland. Do the metal work, grind it, wire brush it, get some solvent in there, put on seam sealer, primer, fiberglass, whatever it takes, and get the metal protected as quickly as you can. If you live in the Nevada desert, this video's going to mean nothing to you. I imagine you could leave vehicles sitting about outside for years and not get any damage. So, small progress report and a better explanation as to what I was trying to do with this sunroof thing. Does that make sense? Right, we've got these roof bars. When I put the sunroof in, I would have been left with ½ inch gap. I believe water could have built up in that gap, and it could have also come up from there. With the fiberglass, hopefully it's going to push the water away from the sunroof. So that's an insight into how my mad brain works. So, Gavin, Steve, thanks for commenting yesterday. The YouTube's a community. Steve, I wish you the best luck with your own build over in the States. I know you're not frightened to get your hands dirty. If like me, you're trying to do this in a budget, don't let the budget be the thing that stops you. If you don't have money, buy some sheet steel. And as I said yesterday, try to get galvanised steel as well. Bend it, hit it with a hammer. It's not rocket science. If you don't get it right the first time, you're going to get it right the second or third time. I got an 8x4 sheet of 1mm galvanised steel plate for about 35–40 quid, which is what, maybe $50 or $60. And the amount of mileage I've got out of that and the repairs in the van, you wouldn't believe it, honestly. It lasted me for ages. I could do with one more sheet of maybe 4 foot by 4 foot to get the rest of the van finished. So YouTube as a community, this is a little diary of the progress. I hope that kind of makes sense to people, and keep commenting. We're up to 73 subscribers. Okay, so thanks for watching another riveting episode of the old Zambo TV, filmed in glorious Zambo vision. Take care, y'all, my friends near and far, YouTube friends, family friends. Hopefully we'll see the back of this madness soon enough and get back to some kind of normality. Okay, so thanks again. Take care. Bye.